The good news is you can do this. And I'm going to encourage you, whatever you've been through, my prayers are with you. My thoughts are with you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Rolla, clinical psychologist, and today I'm going to talk to you about the relationship between perfectionism and suicide. I want to wish you a happy 2023. It is a year that we're starting out hopeful that things will be okay, that some of the challenges that you or I faced or somebody you know faced in 2022 will not be as much of a challenge in 2023. 2022 was a challenging year for me, but I personally know people who have had much more difficult challenges in 2022. And in some ways, as I've pondered and thought about 2022, I've also had to think about the people close to me that have struggled with loss of family and grief in 2022. And I have a lot of sadness about that. But as we approach 2023, I believe that one of the primary things you and I must do to succeed is to gain a better understanding of ourselves. It is important to write your goals down. Of course, it's important to stay focused and be strategic. But when you have a better understanding of who you are, personality traits that are beneficial, and personal traits that can also be a negative depending on the circumstances, you're actually empowering yourself to make the best of what 2023 brings your way. And that is why this issue of perfectionism is so important. Because the research shows that people who are perfectionists have a higher risk of suicidal thoughts and a higher risk of suicide. People who are perfectionists are what we call overachievers. And I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. They have an intense desire to succeed. And they put tremendous amount of effort into making sure that that happens. Their accomplishments tend to be above average when compared to their peers. And honestly, let's be real, those are the kind of people that have made changes in our world, in our families, in our communities. And when I'm talking about perfectionists and people who are overachievers, they don't have to be people that you know in the world, in the celebrity world, or in the tech world, or in the world of philanthropy. Many of you have perfectionists in your family. There's an overachiever in your family. They're gifted, they're called, or maybe even they're not gifted intellectually. They're gifted with the ability to be driven and accomplish. And many of them do it with very little coaching or prompting. They want to succeed and they do what it takes to succeed. And their accomplishment stands out wherever they go. Many of them overcome tremendous obstacles to get to where they are, which is highly commendable. We need to understand that this is a blessing to the person and to the communities and the people that they serve or the careers that they're involved in. But that can also be a curse. In the last few years, because of social media and just the news and how news moves, how we get the news, at lightning speed, we've now become aware that so many people who are successful in our eyes, in the public arena, in IT, in the celebrity world, in retail, whatever, are depressed, and depressed to the point where they actually attempt and complete suicide. And oftentimes when that happens, we say something like, I can't believe that he is depressed. I can't believe that she was depressed. I thought she had it all. I wanted to be like her. I wanted to be like him. And that is why I want to talk today about the connection between perfectionism and suicide risk. So that if you have a child, a family member, a friend, a relative, or you yourself is a perfectionist, you want to focus in and tap into the blessings of that and be very careful about the possibility that perfectionism and overachievement can lead to tremendous stress and pressure that can increase depression and also increase the risk of suicide and be damaging for that person's mental health. Let me make a quick self-disclosure. I think that I am one of those perfectionists early on, and less so now. I was in high school at the age of 9. By 14, I was done. I didn't like my results to get into university, so I went to do my A-levels right after O-levels. You would not believe how much I cried my eyes out that I did not get into university at the age of 14. My scores were fantastic for my O-levels, for my high school, but the grades that I needed and the exam grade, the scores that I needed to get into university, I did not like the course I was being chosen for. It was a course that I eventually did anyway when I finished my A-levels. So if I had gone into university right away and accepted the course I was chosen for, which I eventually did, which was in sociology, I would have finished college at the age of 18. Well, I eventually finished college at the age of 19. I was not just driven. My father, who was in my life just for the 10 years, reminded me often about how intelligent and smart I was. So I was treated like a little old soul, even though I was a baby. And now I look back and I'm thinking, oh my God. Thank you, God, that as time went on, I began to have balance. When I went back to grad school to become a psychologist, why I'm licensed today and I'm talking to you about psychology, I was 31 years old. I thought I was too old to go back to school. Do you know why? Because I was already done with college at 19. But I was blessed enough to have this work experience between the age of 20 until I went back to grad school, and even when I was in grad school, so that when I went to grad school, I was mature and I was ready. And I know the pain and the stress of being an overachiever and people having unrealistic expectations of you. It's almost as if you're gifted and you can do that in that area, then you can take care of everything else. And people tend to overlook other areas which you need to develop because they assume that if you got it right in this area, you must be okay in all other areas. And I'm sharing this to empathize with anybody who is an overachiever or who is a perfectionist, who has a child who is gifted and everybody's acknowledged they're gifted. Be careful. I believe my daughters are gifted as well. And they were in gifted classes coming up. But I was very aware of what this pressures could be. The pressures could be. And even though I was constantly driving them academically because I knew it was within their abilities, we started to tweak some things. And that's for another video for any parent of an overachiever or perfectionist child. If you want that kind of video, let me know. Leave it in the comments. But today it is about the relationship between being an overachiever, a perfectionist, and suicide. Let me talk about that now. Specifically, I've been talking about it already. The person who is a perfectionist is vulnerable because they have high standards of what success looks like. When they fail, in their eyes, it's failure. In the eyes of the regular person or the average person, it's okay. When they fail, they tend to have significant difficulties with accepting it. It may not even be a failure. It may be a change in circumstances. It may be something happened beyond their control. Because they're used to being successful and they're used to accomplishing much, subtle changes or different changes in life that could derail that goal that they have could cause tremendous stress that can increase the risk of depression and increase the risk of suicide. What are some of the characteristics of a person who is a perfectionist that increases the likelihood of depression and suicide? The first one I want to talk about is that they use the work, their goals and their visions as their dreams as a mask for negative emotions. They use it as a mask for times when they're sad or they're down. So much that when they're down or feeling sad, they may actually double up their effort on their goals and ignore their feelings. So much that they may not be emotionally connecting with themselves. While they're sophisticated intellectually and professionally, emotionally, they're more likely to be unsophisticated, which means they're not in tune with their feelings. They're not talking about their feelings. They're not saying to somebody, I just feel down, or I don't like how I feel. And even if they're saying that verbally, but they're not giving themselves the permission to feel those emotions because of the intense drive that they have to succeed. And this is not to make you feel bad if you're that kind of person, because many people who are perfectionists do not even know that they're using success and their goals and their accomplishments to mask their feelings. And because the focus is on the goals and the vision or the plans they have, and they're turned off from the emotional life, they may be derailed emotionally, be in a depressive place, or even be stressed, and people may not be able to see it. Plus, they may not be able to get help when they need it because of their preoccupation with success. Again, I'm saying it is not a bad thing to want to be successful. I just shared with you my journey as a young person. And I have my children and several relatives that I believe are very gifted people. But them being aware of this is critical. That's the first thing. Using accomplishment and work and perfectionism and carrying out goals as a mask. Another thing that is critical, that is unique to a person who is a perfectionist, is that they have limited skills to handle failure. This is closely connected with what I just said. If the person is being used to accomplishing much, and all that is connected with them is success, then failure, or their perception of what failure is, can become intolerable for them. They don't just see it as a bump in the road, they may see it as the end of the road, which is linked with feelings of hopelessness, feeling empty, not feeling good enough, and feeling depressed. So while the person who is a peer of theirs may not accomplish as much in the eyes of others and feel good, the person who is a perfectionist may accomplish more and still not feel good about it. And their self-esteem could be impacted negatively because of that. They have the idea that everyone fails, but not them. They cannot give themselves the permission, or they're not used to giving themselves the permission to feel and to experience failure. It is uncomfortable for them. It is probably earth-shattering for them. And they're going to need help to understand that this is not the end of the road. They're going to need help to understand that they've done so well already, and that not doing well in this area is not a sign that they're a failure. and that it is important to address the emotional life and other aspects of their life that are beyond their goals and their dreams in order to be truly holistically successful. Another aspect that is connected with perfectionism that leads to depression and increases the risk of suicide is difficulty to adapting in change in plans and strategies. The person who is a perfectionist, who is an overachiever, is very much in their own head. They're very driven. They're focused. When a person is very driven and very involved in something, their head is in the books, is in the project, is in the work assignment. That means that they're not as connected with what is going on around them. So when environmental stressors may come in that could prompt or require a change in plan or strategy, the person who is a perfectionist, who is an overachiever, will struggle and may over-personalize it and see it as their personal failure, even though it may not be. And even if it's a personal failure, just see it as a minor thing compared to their achievement. And that is not how it is for them. The person who is a perfectionist is going to need help with continuing their goals, but also putting their head up and looking at what is going on around them. Incorporating the environment, the stressors, the individuals, the people, appreciating the complexity of life so that their thinking is not black and white. They can also look at things from the grays. One of the thinking patterns, the main thinking pattern that is connected with suicide is a rigid thinking pattern, which is the only way I can get out of this pain is to give up on myself. This is the thought pattern of somebody who's suicidal. Do you see how that rigid thought pattern is connected to the thought pattern of a person who is an overachiever and has a rigid thinking pattern? It doesn't mean that everybody who is an overachiever or the perfectionist is rigid, but they lean in that direction. And if they're not careful, they may move in that direction to a point where they're now considering suicide as a way of coping with these feelings of sadness or stress about what is going on. You think about somebody like Anthony Bourdain, who was helping people all over the world to appreciate different cultures, sit in a culture, talk about food, and engage with the people. Underlying that, for what we know about him, underlying his accomplishment as a world traveler, as a person that was really able to be like an anthropologist, go into another culture and just fit in, and people feel comfortable to share culture with them, him. He had these underlying feelings of not being good enough. He was depressed and eventually completed suicide. Another aspect of being a perfectionist and overachiever is that because they're very focused and they have tunnel vision in terms of their own goals, is that they're more likely to disregard the opinions of others. They may not benefit from the wisdom of others. Many people who are gifted and creative are given a lot of respect and honor for who they are. Even young children who are gifted. You hear family members or parents say, she's unique, she's gifted, she's exceptional, she's a genius. Well, that person is being put on a pedestal. It can be difficult for that person to accommodate the opinions and the feelings of others. That can make it difficult for them to accept opinions such as, you need to go into therapy. You're feeling overwhelmed. Your stress level is too high. You need to sleep a little bit more. That inability to flow with others and look at what they're bringing their way as wisdom can be negative when it comes to self-care. Many overachievers will start treatment and drop out because psychotherapy and treatment is something that is a process. And because they tend to be impatient, they may not be able to handle the process of offloading their feelings and their thought pattern in a therapy room over a period of time. If they're not getting immediate results, they may not be able to handle being in psychotherapy. They may not be able to handle a different mindset or a different thought pattern about how they should perceive the current challenge that they're facing. Being a perfectionist and an overachiever is a good thing in some areas. But as I've just shared with you in this video, in a world in which we exalt people who are accomplished, people who are successful, we give them a lot of awards which they deserve, they may be missing out on taking care of their inner self. The people around them may be overly focused on what they've accomplished and what they've done in life, and assume that because they're doing well in that area, that they're doing well in other areas. And because people do not expect them to struggle emotionally or psychologically, even the overachiever, the perfectionist, may be ashamed sharing that with others. They may feel like they're betraying the other people to say something like, I don't feel good about myself, because people think they're wonderful, and yes, they are wonderful. So my challenge to you is, as you go into 2023, whether you're an overachiever, a perfectionist, or the kind of person that maybe needs to do a little bit more in terms of putting a little bit more energy in terms of fulfilling your dreams, this video is exclusively about perfectionism. I want you to pay attention to your inner self. I want you to understand that you, as an achieving person, as an accomplished, gifted, perfectionist person who is respected, that you probably have blind spots when it comes to your mental health and your psychological health. And that you need to begin to broaden your circle of people that you connect with, so that you don't just connect with people based on what you accomplish, you connect with them emotionally and based on how you're doing in your relationships. You need to connect with people on a deeper level. You need to connect with them on a feeling level. You need to get into treatment and be on antidepressants if you're severely depressed. Because sometimes you need antidepressants in order to be able to get the depression under control enough so you can work through the therapy in a process. You need to acknowledge that you're not sleeping well, that you're ruminating, and you cannot shut down your thoughts. Even though people are not noticing and they don't know and they're looking at the results, over time it's going to take its toll on your physical and mental health. And the risk of suicide is clear and much higher if you go on that trajectory. I want to ask you to take care of yourself in 2023. No goal, no dream, no vision is more important than your emotional health and your well-being. When we take care of that as the foundation, all the other things you're working on will work out well, and you'll be able to live long and live well to enjoy it with the ones you love and celebrate your victories and celebrate your accomplishments. I know this video has gone on for a long time, but as you can see, I'm very passionate about this subject. As a parent of gifted children, and I know many people are overachievers in my community. I am British-born Nigerian. You know what that means. Everyone you come across, it has a degree, has accomplished something. Your mental health and well-being needs to be addressed in a way it has never been focused on before in your life in 2023. Only then will you have a solid foundation to build all these wonderful dreams and goals that you have on. I want you to leave your comments. Are you an overachiever? Are you a perfectionist? How has it helped you? How has it harmed you? Leave those comments. How have you handled it so that you're much more balanced? Please share this video, subscribe. Let's increase my subscribers. Thank you, subscribers, because you're more than subscribers. You're my family. I want us to grow so we can share this message of being balanced emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Happy 2023 to you again. Please stay tuned this year. We're going to be releasing very wonderful topics for you. And talk to you soon. Bye now.